अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते.
Wow.
Yes. Welcome to another episode of News Laundry Hafta. This week on Hafta, we'll be discussing Ukraine's audacious drone attack on Russia and also what the Chief of Defense Staff has said on India losing jets during Operation Sindoor.
Trump was very rude to Zelensky, and in fact, at some point told him, "You have no cards."
Yeah.
And so this is Zelensky's way of saying, "Yes, I do have cards." In fact, apparently they used Russia's own cellular network, using an encrypted link across it. So this requires a lot of people with different skill sets to come together and to be able to manage it and still have operational security, right, over an 18-month period. So it's quite an impressive feat that way. Each of these 117 drones apparently had an individual operator of their own, connected via the Russian cellular network, and these people were presumably back in Ukraine. And the other Ukrainians who were involved in positioning these trucks or planning this or whatever, we don't know who they were. They did not have to be present physically at that place to conduct this attack, right? So in that sense, it provides a new tool for saboteurs.
For me, when I was reading about this, it sounds like one of those modern day spy thrillers, right? And we have stuff like drones and open source software and AI. And
now the Ukrainians claim they knocked out something like 40 aircraft. That seems to be an exaggeration. The figures that we're seeing are usually something closer to 10 destroyed aircraft and maybe another 10 damaged to varying extents. So it's much less than what the Ukrainians are claiming.
These drones cost, like every unit, if I remember what came out in the open, cost $500 to $600. If 20 plus aircrafts have been damaged, they have done immense damage. Like some number was going 6 to 7 billion. Now, a few $1,000s, let's say a few $100,000 can damage billions of. So that changes the nature of warfare completely.
Indians finally admitted that some of the jets were destroyed, but it stays a mystery because we don't know how they have been destroyed.
Raman sir, we don't know the numerator and the denominator, right? So we don't know exactly how many Indian jets were brought down, and we don't know how many missiles the Pakistanis fired, right? Mm-hmm. So if the Pakistanis fired 30 missiles and only brought down 3 Indian planes, it's not such a terrible outcome.
Right.
But we don't know.
In my view, it's quite simple, right? It's that end of the day, if you've lost jets, you have to be transparent, you go into detail. If you're going to play up the game and hide the losses, then when you're shifty about losses, you're slightly unconvincing when you talk about your wins.
If you've lost aircraft on day one, just say so. And in fact, start giving out details of what you've lost. Provide the more details, convincing and accurate details you provide without endangering operational security, the more credible you are. And like you said, that makes your wins also more credible.
Welcome to Chota Hafta. Now, Chota Hafta is but a small, chota version of a complete weekly podcast, News Laundry Hafta. The News Laundry Hafta is where you get the week's news, what made the headlines, what didn't make the headlines, but the full version is available to subscribers only. And I don't mean YouTube subscribers, although YouTube subscribers are also very welcome, very, very grateful to you, but also to News Laundry subscribers, the paying subscribers who pay to keep news free. So you can also become a paying subscriber by clicking the subscription link. Now, what do you get if you're a paying subscriber? You get access to all our paywall content, all interviews, podcasts, and importantly, you get access to a full unedited Hafta, where you not only get to hear the week's news, but you get to hear the News Laundry editors' positions on matters. You get to see their biases, what are their prejudices. It's an exercise in transparency while also informing you, and we have a few quips and jokes and agreements and disagreements thrown in. So listen to the full Hafta, subscribe to News Laundry, and pay to keep news free. Here we go.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते.
Wow.
Yes.
Welcome to another episode of News Laundry Hafta. Don't be alarmed, I'm your host Jayashree Arunachalam, but I'm only here for the week because both Abhinandan and Manisha are away. Also, yes, I did practice saying that Hindi thing in the mirror several times over the course of the last few hours. So I hope I killed it. If I didn't, please don't tell me.
You did.
Yes. So we've got a very action-packed episode for you today. Before I introduce the panel, I'll just run through a couple of quick announcements. As we told you last week, Hafta is now back behind the paywall where it belongs. Only paid subscribers and not YouTube subscribers can access the show. You can watch it on our website and our app only. Second announcement, which I'm very excited about, is I think for the first time in a very long time, or maybe ever, Newslaundry is holding a subscriber meet in Chennai. Hooray! So this will be along with the News Minute. It'll feature me, Shabir, and Chitranshu, who is in Chennai from Delhi for a couple of days. We're planning to have it on Wednesday, June 18th. So if you're in Chennai and a subscriber and you'd like to participate, please fill out the form in the description below or in the show notes. We will create a WhatsApp group. We will share venue details there. So please come, please share your feedback. I've never really met subscribers before, except people who I know who are friends and subscribers too. So it'd be great. So yeah. On that note, I will introduce the panel. So the Delhi studio is looking quite empty today, but joining us from there is Raman Kirpal. Hello, Raman sir.
Hi.
We also have Shardool. Hi, Shardool.
Hello.
Both of you are quite matching, I must say.
Yes.
Manisha will be back next week.
Yeah, we'll get her to wear the same color as well. It'll look great. So our guest today is Aditya Ramanathan, who is a research analyst with the Takshashila Institution and who has also been a journalist. He talks a lot on military policy, strategic affairs, and foreign policy. So this week on Hafta, we'll be discussing Ukraine's audacious drone attack on Russia and also what the Chief of Defense Staff has said on India losing jets during Operation Sindoor.
Hi, great to be here.
Hi, where are you joining us from? Which city?
Bangalore.
Okay, great. So not too far from me. I'm in Chennai. So, before we get into the discussion, let's do the headlines. Shardool, will you do the honors? Oh, I've never gotten to say that before. Shardool, please do the honors.
I'll try because...
For a little bit of context for our listeners, this is Operation Spiderweb, which was planned for over a year and a half. It struck at least 5 military air bases in Russia. I think they set over 40 bomber aircraft on fire. Also very interesting, Ukraine used drones. I think about 100 or 117 of them were smuggled into Russia inside mobile wooden cabins that were carried on trucks. These trucks then, their roofs were remotely removed and the drones came out and attacked and whatever. So, I mean, it was very Trojan horse in modern day scenario. And I heard that they also used Russian truck drivers who unwittingly delivered these mobile launchers in the trucks. So do you think that we're seeing a new sort of chapter of modern warfare? What do you make of this sort of latest thing in the war?
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting strike. So, like you mentioned, this required so many things to come together, right? So you had to smuggle in quadcopters in trucks. You needed presumably a staging base somewhere deep inside Ukraine, from where where presumably disassembled drones would then be loaded onto these trucks and taken away. You needed a secure communication network. Apparently, they used Russia's own cellular network, using an encrypted link across it. So this requires a lot of people with different skill sets to come together and to be able to manage it and still have operational security, right, over an 18-month period. So it's quite an impressive feat that way. And it's also interesting that the Ukrainians do seem to have, how did they know about this vulnerability? You have to assume that they use space-based surveillance. Both stuffs shared by NATO countries as well as commercially available imagery. They would have then studied which parts of these aircraft are most vulnerable, how you can set them off. Because, the quadcopters will carry very small explosive payloads.
Right.
So what you want to do is set off secondary explosions or destroy something that can't be repaired, right? So at least some of the video footage that we've seen, they seem to have attacked wings that would which store fuel, for example, and that set off fireballs.
And do we have details on exactly what was damaged or what was destroyed in Russia? And I always presume that these were once the area of hobbyists, stuff like drones and AI and so on. But now you're seeing that they can be weaponized with these sort of results. So I guess my question is, how do you think perceptions of warfare would now fundamentally have to evolve? And also, I feel like I have to ask this in the context of AI. I mean, would you say that there might be ethical concerns down the road? Because if drones are semi-autonomous now, but a future iteration of it is likely to be fully autonomous, is this something we should be worrying about? Or
ultimately, in artificial intelligence, we talk about the alignment problem, right? Which is that if you tell AI to make lots of paper clips, it'll make lots of paper clips, but it might make that by destroying the rest of the world because it doesn't know it's not supposed to do that.
Right.
So in military parlance, you talk about commander's intent. A commander tells you, go and take that hill. even if the enemy is not on that hill but is on the adjacent hill, you understand the commander's intent, right? And so you go and take the adjacent hill. But does AI understand that? Right? So it's that
Indians finally admitted that some of the jets were destroyed, but it stays a mystery because we don't know how they have been destroyed. Do you have any information about it? How they were, what were the jets and how they were destroyed and how many?
I'm afraid I don't.
Okay.
I have no secret information on this. I mean, I'm sure you've heard whispers about this, about how many as I have. Generally, the numbers we've heard tend to be much lower than the 6 claimed by Pakistan. What we don't know is how they were brought down, right? So people have been talking about the PL-15E, which is an air-to-air missile that the it's a Chinese air-to-air missile that the Pakistanis seem to have used, and we seem to have found the wreckage of some bits and pieces of these missiles on the ground in India. Now, the Pakistanis may have also used their surface-to-air missiles, ground-based air missiles. So we don't know, how many of these were used. We also don't know how many missiles, if any, India fired back. Right? India has not been claiming, or at least officially, not claimed that they've downed any Pakistani planes, though there have been reports. But we don't know if the Indian side actually fired back at all. They may not have. So there's a lot of these unknowns here. We don't know what the Pakistanis use. Raman sir, we don't know the numerator and the denominator, right? So we don't know exactly how many Indian.
When you're running this entire PR comedy show abroad, you're selling delegations. So if you were ever losing sleep and wondering how does Colombia or Latvia view Operation Sindoor, now you'll sleep easy because the delegation has gone. So do you feel like now that I saw this headline was everywhere, it was in CNN and BBC and Guardian, India admits for the first time about the loss of a jet. Do you think, why did it take so long to acknowledge a loss that Delhi had shrugged off as being inconsequential? And don't you think this would now put India on the defensive?
If you've lost aircraft on day one, just say so. And in fact, start giving out details of what you've lost. Provide, the more details, convincing and accurate details you provide without endangering operational security, the more credible you are. And like you said, that makes your wins also more credible. So get ahead of the story. And I think we learned the wrong lessons from previous clashes, like the 2019 clash. So I think the instinct this time was, let's not bring it up at the moment. And there are legitimate reasons for this. You don't want people to be riled up during a conflict and putting greater pressure on government, right? A government doesn't want, it wants, in a clash like this where it's not clear when you end, you don't want popular passions to become too complicating a factor. So there's, in that sense, a legitimate concern. But I think my personal opinion is that the better way to handle this is simply get ahead of the story, be transparent, because you're really not going to fool anybody.
Before we get to the letters, a couple of announcements. As you know, we are currently reporting on the police brutality project, which is our NL Sena. We have 2 stories that are already out and several more are on the way. However, we want to expand the scope of this project to now include Assam, where allegations of fake encounters under Himanta Biswa Sarma have drawn the Supreme Court's attention. In May, if you might remember, the court had ordered an independent probe, which is perhaps a glimmer of hope in a state seeing a surge in police atrocities. So we want to expose this deepening culture of impunity. We want to add Assam to the list of states that we are currently covering already under the project. So we do encourage you to contribute. There is a QR code on the screen that you will see right now. Do scan it, do contribute to help us get this done. We also have a second Sena project that is launching soon. It's called India's E-Waste Underworld. So it's on how India is drowning in discarded gadgets from smartphones to servers and is now the 3rd largest e-waste generator in the world. Now, is it too big an ask for India to manage this growing toxic pile? This is exactly what we plan to uncover. We found that the system is broken. We found that environmental damage has met corporate fraud. And this is what we are going to cover. And we'll also speak to all the voices of those who are suffering. So again, there is a QR code on your screen. Contribute to this Sena project. We often get letters from subscribers urging us to report on environmental issues. And this is your chance to contribute to exactly that.
बस मुफ्त में इतना ही मिलेगा. For the full uncut podcast, subscribe to Newslaundry and pay to keep news free. The best way to listen to the Hafta and indeed all our podcasts is through the Newslaundry app. You can download the app by clicking on the links given in the show notes. So do download our app and get the best podcast experience. And also pay for news and support a new news media ecosystem that Newslaundry is trying to encourage, where we are accountable to you because we run on contributions that you make. We don't take government ads, we don't take corporations ads, so that news serves the public, because when the public pays, the public is served. Subscribe to Newslaundry, click on the link in the show notes below and proudly say, I pay to keep news free.